Okay, back when you were in geometry, how many trig functions did we work with that year?
3.
What were they?
Sine, cosine, tangent.
Sine, cosine, and tangent. Okay, that's because we just touched the surface of trig. There are actually 6 trig functions. Yes.
Inverses.
The reciprocal.
Inverse.
And then we did inverse of those 3. Those are coming. Okay, the 3 you are familiar with are sine, cosine, and write your notes just like I am, so I'm going to come back in and fill this stuff in, tangent, and then what was the phrase that helped you remember? Because it was always right triangles, you stood at an angle. SOHCAHTOA. Nobody forgets that, right? Jalon's all over it. SOHCAHTOA. Okay, opposite, hypotenuse, adjacent, hypotenuse, opposite. You remember all that. That's very good. Okay. This is going to be tied to that definition because we always do the sine, cosine, and tangent of an angle. You've got to be standing on an angle to do these ratios. And remember, so far, our angles have been created by rotations from the origin. So, the amount that we rotate okay, you know how algebra likes to use x for every unknown? That's their favorite letter. Okay, I told you geometry was started by the Greeks. They used the Greek alphabet. So their favorite letter to use is theta. Theta. So theta just represents an angle measure. So see that as about a 40-degree angle. So, but it could be any angle measure. Okay, so it's that rotation. And then what we're going to do is take a point on that ray, drop vertically straight down, and make a nice right triangle. So if we know this ordered pair, it has an x value, it has a y value. The x and the y values are going to give us the lengths of the 2 legs on our triangle. Agree with that? What's this leg going to be called? X. It's your horizontal distance over from the origin. What's the vertical distance going to be called? Y. And then we did practice finding the distance back to the origin with the Pythagorean theorem. The book calls that, instead of hypotenuse, they use r for radius. Because if you take that point and you spin it around, you get a circle. So x, y, and r. So we are always going to be standing at the origin at theta. So now we're going to go back up and give our SOHCAHTOA definitions with x, y, and r. And use our abbreviations. What was the abbreviation for sine? SIN. So the sine ratio standing on theta, it's still opposite over hypotenuse, but what's sitting on the opposite side of my triangle? A y. And what's sitting on the hypotenuse? R. R is the hypotenuse. Put a little h there if it helps you. Do you agree that y is opposite and the r is the hypotenuse? So sine is y over r. Cosine is abbreviated COS. Cos, standing on theta, is still adjacent over hypotenuse, but in this case it will be x over r. And then tangent was abbreviated tan, and it's still opposite over adjacent, so it will be y over x. Okay, so the other 3 trig functions come from taking the reciprocal. Remember, reciprocals flip the fraction over, and they get new names. Sine's reciprocal function is called cosecant. Cosecant. It will be abbreviated CSC. So the cosecant ratio will just be the reciprocal of y over r, so r over y. Cosine's reciprocal is called secant, which is abbreviated SEC. And we do the reciprocal here, we'll get r over x. And then tangent's reciprocal is cotangent. To be abbreviated COT, and that will be x over y. Now your goal today, one goal is to remember these ratios in terms of x, y, and r, but then to actually be given an angle measure like 40 degrees, use a little ruler, measure your triangle out, and tell me what will be the sine of 40 degrees. So you would need the y distance and the r distance, and you would divide them. Cosine of 40 degrees, you take your x distance and divide by your r distance. Well, I'm going to make your life a little bit easier, and I'm going to give you what's called a unit circle with a unit ruler. A unit circle has radius equal to 1. So if we go 1 in all directions, make a nice circle. Okay, we're going to have our angle given to us. Angle theta. We're going to use the point that hits the unit circle. It will have an x and a y ordered pair. Those two values will give us, so we're going to go over and up, over x, up y. But now what happens to my hypotenuse value because this is on the unit circle? What does the r equal to? 1. I don't have an r anymore. Now I've got a 1. Okay. As long as you're on the unit circle, the r value will be 1. Let's see what happens to our sine, cosine, and tangent ratios. So sine, if I look above, is y over r. But if r is a 1, simplifies down to just the y value. Cosine, which is x over r, x over 1, simplifies down to just the x. Tangent, y over x, isn't going to simplify. So, what I want you to wrap your brain around is if you have your ordered pair on the unit circle, cosine is attached to the x value, sine is attached to the y value. And just like x and y are in alphabetical order, so are cosine and sine. Maybe that will help you remember. Cosine is the x value, sine is the y value. And to get the tangent, I will have to just always divide the y by the x. So when I get into the other quadrants, do I keep the negatives where they belong? Yes. So if I'm in quadrant 2, I've got a negative x and a positive y. My cosine values are going to be negative in quadrant 2 because they're attached to the x-axis. Okay, your assignment is going to be this little sheet, which is over here. No, I already got mine right here. This sheet. The top is just kind of a quick summary of what I did. And then in here, I says I want you to estimate the sine, cosine, and tangent ratios for each angle measure. I did that one first, I'll do this one. So I've got 170 degrees. So you flip your paper over. There's a little protractor and ruler down here that you got to cut out. Okay. So you've got to make a 170 degree angle. So you lay your protractor on here. Make sure it's cut through the 0. 170 is over here. Mark it. Draw your ray. Ruler. Got it.
Oh, that's not a paper ruler. What? Not the ruler.
Not that. You got to have a straight edge for this part. Okay. What the ruler is for now, I got to make my triangle. So I'm going to use this point. I want that ordered pair, because once I have that ordered pair, I'll have and this was 170. Once I know the ordered pair, the x and the y, I will know cosine, sine, and tangent. So, I need to know how far over it is and how far up. Well, I'm just going to make my little right triangle and measure the legs. Here's the unit ruler. See how I made it? If you line up the 0 at the origin, see how it hits at 1? Spun that around. Now I can measure. So how far from the origin is that? About 0.94. So the x value is 0.94, negative. The y value is about 0.1, is that 8? Okay, without my glasses on. So, on the other side now, negative 0.94, positive 0.18. I want the sine of 170 degrees. What is sine attached to again? Sine is x or y? Y. What was my number? 0.18. I think it was 0.18. Up was positive.
Yeah.
Cosine of 170? Negative. You guys, 9.4. How do I get tangent? I got to divide. So pick up a calculator, 0.18 divided by negative 0.94, and then go 2 decimal places. So this is going to get you a feel for where sine, cosine, and tangent are coming from and how it changes from positive to negative all the way around. So that's your homework, is this worksheet for after the quiz. Okay. Now your review sheet. Take that out. We'll review.
Do we need a graphing calculator for this quiz?
No. Nope. You don't need a graphing calculator at any point in this class. Review sheet. Do you want me to run through the answers, or do you have your answers and just have questions for me? Speak. Read the answers or not.
I think we all have.
Does anybody need me to read the answers? Speak now or forever hold your peace.
What's the answer to 9?
Okay, 9 is yes.
What?
Why?
Domains negative infinity to positive infinity. Range square bracket negative 9 to infinity.
How do
I
you
did not
do that?
indicate if it was a function.
Oh.
Can you do that?
Can I do, you graph this on your calculator.
Or your phone.
Oh, and
Don't you need a graphing calculator?
Oh, yeah, I guess you do.
That's the
Well, unless you remember from advanced algebra, this is a quadratic opening upward,
I don't have a
vertex
graph.
down 9.
Is there one of those on the quiz?
A graph one?
Yeah.
There might be.
Do you show the graph on the quiz?
It's helpful.
I'm at. No.
Yeah.
No, do you?
How's that?
Yeah.
Yes. Draw the graph. Keep it simple.
Look at what I have.
Nice.
What?
That looks pretty good.
We have to draw the graph?
That's a good thing.
You don't-
No?
No, we don't like to draw the graph.
I don't care. It's a sketch. You don't have to make it perfect. I would say,
You don't care about us? You don't care about us?
no, that's all I want to see. You don't need anything more than that.
Yeah, but how do I know that goes in?
You had Mr. Giroux last year. You should know this. Without the graphing calc. Anyway, any more questions?
I'm gonna just go on the phone this quick. Go on, Desmond.
Yes.
Can I borrow graphic
Really?
calculator?
Come back here. They're back here. Anybody else?
Oh, hey, sauce me one too, Reese.
Yeah, wait, me too.
Use Desmos. Oh.
Use Desmos.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You can use Desmos.
Wait, can you just go on and like car?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, you can?
I think so.
Are we good?
Get the Desmos app. I have that. It's super.
Any questions on the backside? Any questions for your quiz?
Yeah.
What do you got?
What come on. Measuring angle. Oh, like subtracting angles when you have like, say you have like 84, and then like seconds, minutes,
Yeah?
and then you subtract like, okay, do a 27 minutes and then like 11 seconds, or is that what you do?
Yeah?
And then subtract like 16
Something bigger?
degrees from that. No,
16 degrees, period.
just that.
0,
No.
0, 0, 0.
Yeah.
Okay, so 16 degrees. I would bring that down to 15 degrees. That would come over as
Oh, I forgot you.
60 minutes. Then I would borrow 1 minute. That would go down to 59. And then that would come in as 60 seconds.
You have to have all.
You gotta borrow all the way over.
Okay.
Well, I didn't really need to here because it was 0 subtract. I could have done that, but that's how you would borrow. Just borrow all the way over from the beginning.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
We can do that
Yes.
on calculator, right?
Can you do a quick one about, like, with seconds, how to put that into a decimal?
I have a question.
Seconds.
Like, that has minutes and seconds and how to put it into a decimal. Like, if you're transferring.
On the calculator,
Yeah.
just type it in like that. You can hit enter. It kicks it right into a decimal.
Real quick, do we have to use do we have to do any of that by hand if we don't
No,
want to?
you don't have to do any of this by hand.
Can you?
Every time I think
Will the
of it,
calculator do it if, like, say you, like, for the answer, you get, like, over 60 seconds, where you have, like, 77 seconds?
It won't. No, it'll simplify it down.
Ouch. Sweet. Yeah.
Anything else?
I'm anxious. I am using this.
Okay, pass up the review sheet. If you made a note card, take it out and use it. And keep your note card when you turn in your quiz.
And then you just keep it forever? You
Keep it until exam time.
I'm gonna keep every single piece of it forever. You cut out an example?
Jake, no. Can you literally just type the equation in and it shows you exactly what it is? Alright. Got my shorts, I'm using my
Since they're up
phone,
there.
so don't give me zero.
You gotta show work.
Carson, what you doing? That's real sad.
Remember when you caught Bryce cheating on that quiz? When he wrote Emma's answer like exactly how she had it, like.
And he still failed. Thought he put a couple wrong. A whole lot wrong.
No, she did one like completely
Carson, you just
wrong.
cut your note cards now?
Yeah.
Why'd you do that? You're
Good.
fine.
What? Yeah, or.
When we have to do what you're doing. It's actually okay though.
Nobody thought that was
I
funny.
just weird.
Nobody
The whole
laughed at
thing,
you.
too.
All right, review sheets came up. Yo.
I just went like.
Wait, what'd you do for number one?
Yo.
That you can only have half?
One side.
Half of a whole sheet. Means one side.
Alright, if anyone sees my sister in the hallway, I'll get my
I will be using my phone.
And your worksheet you're doing after the quiz is right next to the box. Turn your quizzes into the box. Here's this, scissors are up here, rollers over here. Life is good. And Christian is our only.
Where's Christian?
Christian.
Really?
You come back with it, or you think? Otherwise, take your sheet. If you're not making it back here this hour. so I will take either. Thank God. That first one can go either exact or decimal. It's your first quiz, I'll be lenient.
Is that for us too?
Yep. Unless your name's Vince, then you gotta do it exact.
Good thing my name
Is it?
is more educated.